Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Headquarters show me 10-8. Tonight, a very special night, It's been chaos around United States right now. And as you guys know, as I know, we influence a lot of people all over the world. So it's really good to have you two here with me, man. I really appreciate you taking your time to come here, talk to me.
Yeah, not a problem. No, most definitely.
Yes, sir.
Tonight, I got two special guests, man, that have served the country in two different capacity, and they still serve in the United States as we talking right now. I'm going to start with my man, AT, Aaron Thomas. Most of you guys know from the west side of Texas, West Texas. Aaron Thomas is the Restart Coordinator for the Crisis Center of West Texas. His role is to oversee intervention training for persons who battle in a non-judgmental environment that allows participants to be accountable for their actions and work towards preventing and ending domestic violence. Aaron is a native of Odessa, Texas, and a U.S. Army veteran. He has a bachelor's degree in business management, and has his own business, Excellence Above Talent. His service includes transformation coaching, youth mentoring, and men's support and accountability. Aaron's current serves on a family and health clinic board, Young Professionals of Odessa board, and ECISD, which is Ector County Independent School District, and the SHAC committee. He's married and has two dogs. His wife, Erica, also serves the community. So as far as I know, she's still doing the same thing, correct?
Yeah, she's still doing the same thing.
Awesome. Tell Erica say hi, man.
I will, man.
And next we got my man, Sergeant Kirk Benton, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Descended from a Jamaican father, Ataquan. Former state correction officer, 13 years as a municipal police officer, and joined the federal service back in 2016. He's currently a sergeant with a training and education division at the federal level. He also loves sports and fitness, and always up there staying ready so you don't have to get ready, man.
It's been tough getting older. It's been tough, though.
I feel you, but hey, somebody got to do it, right? Cool, man. Cool, man. I appreciate you guys being here, man. It's going to be a good evening. I'm going to start you with AT, man. Currently, how do you experience racism in a position that you are right now, if you experience any?
So it's not really blatant.
Yeah.
It's it's the body language, the tone of voice, the looks. I think a lot of times when we talk about communication, we make that assumption that a lot of it is like verbal. But in doing the research, 7% of communication is verbal. 38% is tone, 55% is body language. So if you pay attention to people's body language, they're telling you exactly what they feel sometimes. And so I experience it through the tone and the body language over them voicing it, because nowadays you really can't voice it like that, or you'll get in trouble. But a lot of times people try to do it through the tone and body language of having that communication with them.
Cool, man. I appreciate that. Sergeant, you being in New York.
Sorry.
New York. No problem. New York and also DMV area.
Yep.
How is it to be a black police officer there? Because I know the predominance of black officers is higher compared to the South where we are. So how is it to be a black police officer up north?
Well, I would say the numbers are higher, but they still don't represent the clientele, so to speak, or our residents, or in my case, on the federal side. But even locally, local government, it's still a small percentage of the population that you're supposed to police or protect and serve. But I know it is better here, but I will say, in my opinion, a lot of the southern states, I see a lot more African American chiefs of the larger agencies. We have a few here that are the municipal agencies, or the smaller ones, some of which I came from. But for the large scale actual departments, they're still far and few between. We have a lot of, I like to say, we have a lot in the rank and files, first line supervisors, but the higher up you go, it doesn't necessarily represent the population in which we are governed to protect and serve with.
Cool. That's funny. You say that the higher you go, and I'm gonna quote what's his name, Sean Carter. He once say, "I only see a few blacks the higher I go," and that's something that I've experienced, and I bet you guys have experienced the same thing.
Yeah, I work in a training division that has roughly 26 members, and 4 of us are African American. Recently, with the promotion process just occurred, we've been fortunate. Well, we kind of made history where it's 4 out of 5 sergeants in that particular unit is African American, which we made history because that never happened. We're usually
that's good history though. That's good history.
In a training division, it's pretty good history to do that, and not just promotion but the people that are the sergeants that are in place are very knowledgeable and experienced. Within not just the agency but in their own personal. I have another sergeant. He's also from New York City, not to tout the New York City rep, but I'm just saying, so we're doing pretty well and we're passionate about what we do. You
know how to do it.
Don't do that, man. Don't do that.
What I say? How about them Cowboys, huh?
Hey, 22 years ago, how about them Cowboys?
We're going to win the Super Bowl this year anyway.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I just realized I got 2 Texas boys in the house.
I'm an Eagles fan. I'm
Eagles fan?
Philly. Yeah, I'm Philly all day, man.
We don't claim this guy here.
But I ain't mad at you guys. I ain't mad at you guys. We only have 1 black colonel in our entire department. And funny because a lot of people look at him as, various things, Uncle Tom or sellout or whatever like that. And then I attempted to educate a lot of people. Do you know what it must feel like to be the only black colonel?
Yeah. And
what experiences and or adversities he had to go through, number one, to get it, but now to keep it, I try to educate, you do the best you can with what you can and what but it's difficult at times, very difficult at times to deal with this. Especially what's going on right now. You have a lot of opinions as it relates to what's going on in law enforcement.
I think it's crazy that it's 2020 and we're still making history as black people are still making history, and to me that's crazy because I feel like we should. We should already be past this. If you're good at your job, you should get the job, and it shouldn't be about, the color and things of that nature. But sometimes it is, and the fact that there's 4 brothers up there kicking ass and taking names. I don't know if you can cuss, my bad.
It's all good. I can try to bleep it out.
Okay,
just more work for me. AT, you the way you present yourself, the way you come across to some people, I'm not sure, but some people may have considered you to be, Uncle Tom and stuff like that. But you stand out for the black community more than anybody I know. I know a lot of people, but you have been standing out for the black community a lot, and I give you praises on that. So how was to be a black in the military whenever you served?
Man, I tell people this all the time. It was the funnest time in my life, which is nuts because I mean, you know, we're getting ready to go to war. We go to war, we come back. And I think those are just like the best years of my life because there was a brotherhood and a bond that I've never felt before. And like in the Army, we really didn't, like we cared, but we really didn't care about, you know, race and color. Like we would just, it was more about like, I wanted to come home alive, and the other guy wanted to come home alive, and you know, not really caring about, you know, white, black, Mexican. It was just like, yo, like just have my back and I'll have yours, because we all want to get back, you know, to our families in America. So like I don't think I've ever experienced it. You know, I was only in for 3 years, and so I rose up to an E4, and so I wasn't in it long enough. I don't think to the higher I went, the more, you know, it could have been, but you know, I got promoted whenever, you know, on par with everyone else. I got promoted, and sometimes I got promoted quicker than others, and so like yeah, I didn't really experience it, you know, in the Army, or if I did, I didn't see it at the time.
That's cool. That's cool. And Sarge, you know, being up there up north, you know, DMV area. So, and you one of the training sergeants. So which kind of trainings do you guys provide to your guys as far as like, you know, to deal with cultural diversity, you know, because I believe that's one of the things that is lacking here in Texas a lot.
Well, okay, so I will start off by saying, okay, so I run the in-service program, in-service training program. You're familiar with, you know, firearms,
yeah,
DT, whatever the mandate is for the year, you know, CPR and so forth. And my job is to oversee that for the worldwide, so to speak, for our agency. As it relates to diversity training, to be honest, I have not seen that in 4 years. At least the traditional way of diversity training, the traditional way, and that's. We've been focused on, you know, most training, and especially when it comes to in-service, is directly related to what's the current events. We've been focused on active shooter training, defensive tactics training, which it needs a real focus, especially what we're seeing right now, in my opinion. So we haven't looked at diversity training as of yet, since I've been in the unit. But what I will say, you know, I recently just got promoted back in August of 2019, and just took over the program. And I've already implemented de-escalation training and things of that nature. And we're focusing on what we're going to do for 2021. And we're definitely going to implement some of that stuff now, especially when I'm in charge. That I have an opportunity to be in charge and have some say in the training. You know, but the current we generally do it with current events, and that's. Right now, that's what's going on. So we're going to look at defensive tactics training because I believe we need that more than ever. We're going to look at de-escalation training, maybe a little bit of what I really like to do that hasn't been set in stone yet, but some CIT training. I think crisis intervention training is key. I've been to training for crisis intervention. I think that we need to get a more of a focus on that. I hear that catchphrase now in the public, or you know, whatever verse. In whatever way they call it, but at the end of the day, it's CIT training, and they're asking for it, and I think we need to look at that as especially right now. You know, I work hand in hand with the military, so to speak. Not getting involved in what I do, so I work hand in hand with the military as well as the civilian population, and you know, incidents are on the rise. We're looking at current events. I think what's going on is a direct reflection of how the people is feeling, and we need to make adjustments for that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Aaron, man, you know, some of the comments, because we Facebook friends, you know, some of the comments may lead some people to think that you don't like cops, but you came forward and you tagged me on one of the posts, and you say it's not against cops. I'm not fighting against cops. I love cops, and I know you love cops, and that's why I got you on the show. So for people who may misunderstand what you're doing right now, just break it down, your why. Why are you doing what you're doing right now?
So to me, it is an accountability problem. Like, we as human beings, you know, if, you know, it's about accountability. So if you're not good at your job, like if I suck at my job, I'm going to get fired from my job. And so if there are some people who aren't doing what they need to do on their job, why are they still on their job? And so to me, it's not about cops. It's not about, you know, Republican or Democrat. It's not about black, white, Mexican. It's about being accountable as a person. And there are some things that I'm seeing now that people aren't being held accountable for their actions. And I'm going to speak up about them. I've been silent, I feel, too long because of fear of like pissing people off. I didn't want to make no one mad. I didn't want to talk about my brown skin and, you know, the things that I've been through. I didn't want no one to assume that I was a victim because I would never play the victim. Like, if you know me, I'd rather, it's very dark, but I'd rather die than be a victim. I just point blank period. Like, that's just me. And so like, it's not me playing a victim. It's me expressing, you know, my life as a person of color. And sometimes people, they don't like that, or they don't want to hear it. And so they just make an assumption like I hate cops. And it's just not the case. They have a job too, and they want to make it home to their family. I get that. But you know, if you're not good at your job, you have to be held accountable for your actions just as much as if I'm not good at my job, I'll be held accountable for my actions too.
As simple as it is, man. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you can explain better than that. If you're not good, you're not good, and you got to be held accountable. Accountability is important. So, Sarge, how do we bridge that? I mean, that gap that it's happening right now. How do we reconnect with the communities? You know, especially the Black community. You know, even though like is a lot of, you know, white population also fighting against the cops, you know. So how do we?
To be honest, in my opinion, I think that we're making, so it's a catch-22, right? It's funny when you're a cop and you make a mistake, and you know this, because of various, you know, lawyers and unions and so forth. You're not allowed to say I fucked up. You know, you're not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And it is, even though we know we did, or our comrades and our coworkers know we did.
Yeah.
Because of various legal things, we can't come out and say sorry, right?
Mm.
What I'm seeing of late with a lot of police chiefs, on the outside, again, I'm not in those particular agencies, so I couldn't tell you who they are as persons.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see more and more chiefs come out and basically apologizing for actions that didn't even occur in their department, but may have occurred. Well, didn't occur. Their department is not in the limelight right now, but they're apologizing because they know that it has occurred in their department, and it's some point in time, and they're acknowledging that fact. So I think that we're starting to look at that, and we're starting to listen to the community. So right now, the community is angry, and we both know, dealing with communities and rioting and protesting and things of that nature, that you got to let people vent. They're not going to hear you when they're angry. That conversation is going to be a one-way street.
Yeah.
So we have to allow them that opportunity to vent, right? And that's what they're doing now. That's what the protest is about. I mean, obviously, it's not just about that. They're trying to get some laws changed and things of that nature. I'm not dismissing that at all. But from a human side, people need to vent. Allow them to do that. Once they finish doing that, then we need to come together with them and say, hey, look, we messed up, right? We can't change the past. What we could do is change the future. And what does that future look like in your eyes? What does that future look like in your eyes as a citizen, a community member, and as far as how you want the police to behave, or what's your expectations of us? And when you ask that question, the one thing where we have to be, a lot of times I notice that dealing with communities, they have to be also realistic. You know, you can't ask for God to appear. It's not just going to appear in front of you like that. And I know I'm just taking that as it's a dramatic thing, but we need to be realistic, right? Realistic in our expectations, and then the Chiefs have to be realistic in what they are capable of doing. There's no sense of saying I'm going to do this right now, knowing that there's a process of that, and at that point you're a politician trying to appease somebody. So the community has to be realistic in their goals and their intentions, and then we have to be active listeners to understand what it is that they're saying, confirm what they're saying, and then to collectively come up with a plan of action. I can tell you right now, community policing, in my opinion, is dead. It's been dead since I was a kid, because I don't see that. Now that could be various reasons. I think, we've been, the call volumes have escalated in the last 10 years. So you have a lot of cops, less cops on the street, doing more with less. But the reality is a lot of that, some of us are so busy running calls of service. Some of us, they just don't want to talk to the community. We know that. We have those officers that don't want to talk to the community. There's a line in the sand. We're the good guys or the bad guys. The problem is they don't differentiate who's bad, who's good. And then we got those cops stuck in the middle. They want to do right based on their training, but they're conflicted. And then that's what we have to look at. We have to reach those officers as well and devise a plan of attack. I mean, officers right now don't know what to do. We have a lot of officers that do not want to go to the calls of service because they don't know what to do. We talk about, as a supervisor, the first thing we did that's drilled into our heads, and supervisors, we take in my area, we have to go to supervisor training. We have to go to a supervisor. They talk about vicarious liability, and that's bogged into your mental psyche. And then we've obviously put that on the recruits in the academy and things of that nature. But there has to be a fine line, because now we've bogged them down with so much vicarious, some type of liability that it enables them to act appropriately when the time is right. And I know I'm probably going to a kind of branching off a little bit, but I always, and I said it previously, and I think you heard me in my little, I guess, podcast last time, YouTube thing. Mistakes are made for or like excessive force for three reasons, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Others will have theirs. It's going to be fear, anger, or lack of training. Those are the three things. Now, you could put racism under fear, because in essence, it's a form of fear of the unknown, of the taking over of whatever the case may be. So I make it real simple. Those are the three things we have to look at. And I've been a cop a long time, and I can tell you, I've acted under anger before. Somebody that pissed me off, and then I reacted in such a way that probably wasn't as professional as it could have been if I took the time to think about what I want, take a step back from the situation and really look at what is that person was trying to say. Fear, because of the training aspect, I'm not confident in my abilities in my training. I'm scared I'm going to die, and I react in such a way that in a lot of cases you live to regret. And training, we give them a lot of training options. I think we're very good at teaching somebody how to shoot. I am a firearms instructor. We know how to teach people how to shoot. We're seeing that every day. But what we're not seeing is people are not confident, and I know because I've seen your martial arts skills there. People are, when you have that confidence and ability to defend yourself, you're more confident in talking to people a little longer. True. Because you have that confidence. That now mind you, I'm a cop, so I believe I can take every situation and I can beat everybody. My mentality is a little much. Not saying I could, but that's
ain't nothing wrong with that mentality, man.
That's an old school mentality, right? I believe that I can win, right? Every scenario, every situation. And I'm still here today, so I've won a few. Made some mistakes before a few, but I won a few because I'm still standing, right?
Yeah.
But I have that confidence in my abilities, and I know my job. We have to, and I tell officers this all the time, especially when it comes to training, because I love training officers. I'm a firm believer. If you have an opportunity to train your backup one day, you should jump on that.
Yeah.
Or if you have, and we also have a recruit training program. We run an academy as well. If you have an opportunity to say who or have some input on who should stay as the police, why wouldn't you jump at that chance? That's just my opinion. I know that other people have other reasons for being a cop. Some people prefer to be FTO. Some people want to be a homicide detective. Whatever the case may be, community police officer, school resource, whatever. But that's my plan. So I always try to educate our officers every day. You have to have a plan. Things go awry because you didn't have a plan going into that situation. You have to have. Me, I have 3. You can have as many as you like, but you need to have multiple plans so that your decision-making process is sped up when you get to the scene and something doesn't go according to plan. Okay, I got something for that plan because I had that in my mind as well. So anyway, but I think we have to get back to getting involved in the community, and not just the chief of police.
No.
Every officer. I remember when an officer come to your community, they could tell you who's doing bad stuff and who's doing good stuff. And I mean, just cutting classes, doing dumb stuff in school, not just who's selling the drugs on the corner and things of that nature.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that cop that you see that you don't fear, And I'm sorry, I went on a tangent because that's just how passionate I am. But we have to get back to teaching our officers how to treat people, and that's what it boils down to. It's not us against them; it's us.
Yeah.
Us,
AT.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when you talk about the training aspect, 100% agree with you on that. How do you train someone, I guess, mentally? Because you said you have like 3 or 4 different options.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's something that should be trained or can be trained. Like how do you train someone to like look at a situation and be like, you know what, these are the options that I have, and I'm going to go about it this way, and if it doesn't, then I'm gonna go about it this way.
Well, it's honestly very easy because what we do at our agency, and I'm sure most police agencies do, we go through what they call reality-based training, and what that means is that we present them with a scenario that's, number one, realistic, what they're going to see on the street, depending upon your community you're serving. And obviously, we've already went over use of force. Use of force is option. We talk about that stuff, and then we run a scenario through. And we have expectations for that scenario. It may be a no-shoot scenario. It could be a less lethal scenario. It could be a combination of it starts out as a lethal encounter, and they have to transition to a less lethal option. So we create those type of scenarios and we induce a certain amount of stress on them to get them to react, and then we give them feedback. Some of them fail. Well, they'll do it again. We'll critique it. We'll give them that feedback that they need, and then they'll redo it. Now, if there's officers that just can't cut it, then we have to document that, and we have to document it very detail-oriented in documentation, because it's very difficult to fire a city, state, or federal employee. No matter if you're a cop, you're the military, wherever it's very difficult to do that. There is a process, and what happens in these processes that somebody falls short, and somebody in that chain of that process doesn't do their job, and that's why you have a lot of people still on working these different jobs that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But we do it. We can always do better. Obviously, funding is always an issue. We provide them with. We have 40 hours of annual training that we're required to give our officers. Minimum. That's the minimum standard. And we use a lot of it up. We get all 40 hours. And even our majors and captains go through our training, our in-service training. You wear a badge and a gun, with the exception of the chief and deputy, which are figureheads. They all have to go through our training. It's mandatory for everybody who carries a weapon in our agency. And so we provide them with numerous options. Obviously, we train them on those numerous options first. But I will tell you, I can't train taking the fear out of somebody. I can't train somebody out of unconscious biases. You can't. All we can do is give them the options and the tools that are readily available to them, show them the options in which you can utilize them, and then it's up to them to make that informed decision. And a lot of cops' decision-making process, to be honest, a lot of them made the most informed decision they had at the time, even the ones that make bad decisions. And a lot of it has to do with mental training, mindset. Yeah. The mind will get you. And you're military. I know they teach you that the mind will get you through things that you think your body can't.
Yeah.
Your mind will will your body to do whatever it needs to do to get home to your families.
Yeah.
We try to stress that, it all comes back to, number one, know what your use of force options are. Understand what the laws are, and understand what are you being faced. There was a couple of different research company, not companies, but places like Force Science. They do a great job in dissecting the mind and how the mind works. We have our instructors have that training, and we provide that to our officers. We let them know the reason why you're creating multiple plans of attack is because of the fact that your mind, in a stressful environment, your mind's has to first identify that threat is occurring right now, and then it's we will call it OODA loop: orient, observe, decide, and act. It's orienting itself to that fact that it's in danger. And then your mind has to pick a plan. And your mind will never come up with one plan. Your mind will come up with several plans of attack. And now you have to pick a plan that your mind presented to you that will work, that you believe will work in that scenario. And then your final response is to act on it. The problem is this. When that shot gets fired and that bullet comes whispering past your ear, guess what? Your OODA loop resets.
Yeah, everything changes.
It resets.
Hey, just like Mike Tyson said, right? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Things change quick.
No, that's I guess that's the question. Like, with the train, because we had the training too, but when stuff hit the fan in Iraq, dudes just stop. And we're like, dude, you know this stuff, we had to jump into it and take care of it, because just the fear or everything just went away, and I'm just like, come on, man.
Let me point something out that we discussed last week with one of the lieutenants that I had on the show. We focus on the training, right? But we focus on mandate training. Mandate training is the training that you gotta have to satisfy, to keep that badge, so the state know, okay, you went through this training, you're good to keep the badge for another 2 years until the legislators in Austin decide, okay, we didn't like that law, let's make another law, and then we got to learn that. So that's the mandate. We focus more on that. So my problem with the training, and whenever I defend training in law enforcement, a lot of people be like, no, it's not about training. Yes, it is about training. We cannot train cultural diversity for 8 hours and expect to understand a black or a white guy. Me as a black man, I cannot train 8 hours of cultural diversity and go to a predominant white neighborhood and understand them fully. Same way that a white officer cannot just have 8 hours of cultural diversity, then never had an interaction with a black person, and the first time that he has interaction with a black person is to make an arrest and be expecting everything to go well. That's impossible. The Chiefs Association of Texas have done a really great job creating this program called Invincible, which is constantly training officers during the briefing before they hit the streets. So they have 32 weeks topics. So every single day officers get in the briefing room, they refresh their mind on whatever is happening. It's not like, oh yeah, I had 8 hours, so I'm good. You know what I mean? Some officers have 8 hours cultural diversity and go 10 years without even seeing need to talk about that. And that's what is wrong with law enforcement right now.
Yeah, we call that roll call training. We try to do it.
Roll call.
Absolutely, yeah. You're absolutely right. I'd say, people ask me, well, how do you know if a cop is profiling us? I said, I don't know. I can tell you this though. If that cop, let's say he's because we have to remember, if the community you're serving 70% is African American, guess what? 70% of the encounters you're going to have is going to be African American. That's a reality. People don't want to hear that fact. That's a reality. Now, if you take that same officer and put him in a different cultural neighborhood, different race neighborhood, and 70% of the people they still pull over is African American, then you have something that's tangible. Go, your demographic changed, but yet your stops or encounters did.
Yeah.
Then you have tangible evidence. But the problem is up north here, well, at least not where I work at here, but where I used to work at, a lot of the communities is affluent African Americans.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult here, and it only comes up when you do some egregious acts. Do something totally out that's not even, that's totally against human decency. Similar to what we saw in Minnesota. The human, that video bothered me to its core, and I think it bothered me more so. Two reasons. Number one, the reactions that I'm getting now from officers who's lost the message, and my coworkers and comrades in this field, not just my agency, but law enforcement in my area in general that I talk to, they've acknowledged that was wrong, but they didn't really acknowledge it. They're like, oh yeah, that was wrong. I wouldn't hold my knee on somebody's neck like that. Okay. Then when you change the topic to, but look at these looting and all that. Why are they rioting? If you think yeah, I get that. I hear you. But let's get back to the reason why they're doing what they're doing, allegedly doing. And I'm not an advocate of destruction of property at all. Not an advocate of that. I've heard some people say, well, we built it for free, so we can tear it down. I get it. I'm still not an advocate of destruction of property. Because we can go back to the ancestors, and I'm not going to go there.
People tired.
But I look at it, but look at it this way: if we're all men right here. Me and you have a disagreement, and we verbally try to attack that issue, and we're angry at each other, and nothing's getting accomplished. What's left? We're gonna fight.
So, go to the back, man. That's it. Just go ahead and finish it. Yeah.
And what in reality is what we're seeing is right now is that. That's what we're seeing. Well, we try to talk to you, and again, I don't condone it. I'm an officer. I get it. I don't condone that that destruction of property stuff. I don't condone that. But reality is this: they talked, nobody listened, so now they're fighting. They're just using property as their weapon, as their outlet, or whatever the case may be. But that's reality. I mean, but that's sitting on somebody's neck for 8 minutes. I don't remember ever.
I don't even teach that. I don't even know where they teach that.
To be honest, the only thing we've ever taught in our DT portion of our class, we teach people a chokehold not for them to utilize it, but they need to know what it feels like.
Oh yeah,
because most people they'll panic. So
the president banned chokeholds.
Don't get me started with that nonsense.
Yeah, and
because
I don't even want to go there, but we were very upset last week when we talk about that.
But think about it's politicking because it's semantics. You ban a chokehold, but in the small print it says only when absolutely necessary. Wait, if you were to do a chokehold in real life, wouldn't it only because it's absolutely necessary?
Yeah, I mean,
if I put somebody in a chokehold, it's because my lights is about to go out and I got to do what I got to do.
We don't just chokehold people, but before we run out of time, man, AT, what we experience right now, is it racism? Is it injustice or social inequality?
I might piss some people off, but America was built on racism.
Ooh.
Let's just be honest.
Let me say something. Last time my guest said that he got some heat, but go ahead.
Well, I mean that's I now am not afraid to express myself. Right? I used to be afraid. I'm not. America was built on racism. How they brought, how do we get this land? We took it from Native Americans. We didn't take it, we killed them and we moved them out the way in order to get the land so that we can bring slaves to plant the cotton and form the cotton. And so it has always been a level of superiority for people of we're better than you because And so it's stewed in racism. Like to me, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like it is racism to its core, and that's why people get upset when, you know, some of my friends were mad about the cop, and you know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that he placed his knee or held his knee on George Floyd's neck. But they only wanted to give you 1 or 2 days, and after that, get over it. What? No. And I think in order for us to create change, we have to continue to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I have pissed off a lot of people because they made the assumption that after a couple of days, I should shut up. I am now not ever going to shut up. I will bring it to people's attention as many times as I need it to be brought to their attention. And if they unfriend me or stop liking me, then I'm okay with that. Like, they were never my friends to begin with. But the fact that, you know, we're having this conversation in 2020 is upsetting, but it's something that needs to be, that something needs to happen and continue to happen. So to me, it's straight racism.
And that's deep, but the truth gotta be told. So my next question for both of you guys: how do we combat this? Because I know for a fact this is not black versus cops. No. And some people would try to make this black versus cops, which is not. That's not the fight. It's not black versus cop, because I'm black and I'm a cop. So it's not me versus me, but like, you know, it's racism that we're dealing with. So what can we do to come together, you know, to fight this whenever it comes to law enforcement, of course? What can we do? Because right now, my goal is to look for the solution, man, because we know what the problem is. Some people still trying to say, no, that's not the problem. We know what the problem is. So how do we fight that? How do we come together? That's my deal right now. How I'm looking for the solution. What can we do?
I think one of the solutions we have to first, there's a lot of people that first has to admit it. We have a lot of people that just won't admit it. They won't admit it that it's racism. They will come do everything. They'll say admit to everything up until it hits that racism plateau, and they just won't admit it. You know, because a lot of them refuse to say that because that stuff happened 100 years ago. They're saying, right? And it was before my time. You know, I get that. It was before my time too, but I'm still seeing it in some aspects of my life. I think the first is acknowledgement, acceptance of the fact that yes, and honestly, it's going to be by white America. They first have to accept the fact that does exist. In order to first change it, you have to admit that it exists. And real quick, racism was social inequality and injustice. I know you had that question with him earlier with AT, but I just want to say that it's built upon racism. That's why I would have said all three. Yeah. But racism at its core, you know, you look at the unequal opportunities and rewards in different social classes, blah, blah, blah. Inequality and fairness in the judicial process. It's all built on racism. So once I think acknowledging it first is a step.
Acknowledgement, okay.
Yeah, I think acknowledgement first, you know, but they can't even do reparations. So good luck. I don't know.
Man, I would think there was a guy that sat on our board for ECISD, and he had a lot of just racist comments about Muslims and transvestites, and just it was just gays, and it was just he was sitting on our school board, and you know, we as a people found out, and we brought it to everyone's attention, and he was held accountable for his actions, and he resigned. Right? He said he didn't get pushed out; he resigned. And so I think a solution is to stop being so freaking quiet. If you see it, address it immediately. And that helps people like, okay, I can't do this, or at least I can't do it around him, right? And so I think if this conversation keeps happening, and if we keep seeing people who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we address them immediately, and we try to have this conversation, and we let them know like why it is, you know, bad that they're doing it, I think that's, you know, where change comes from. But not being afraid to open your mouth and say, I don't feel comfortable right now with you and you saying that. Can we talk about why you feel like, you know, you can say that to me? Versus like getting mad does nothing for me, right? Like getting mad just takes away from, you know, having that conversation with someone to try to see where they're coming from. And so that's, to me, that's where it's at. We have to, you know, not be afraid of calling someone out and having those tough conversations. So what I do in my work is the guys who are abusive in their relationship. When we talk about abuse, it's just not hitting someone. It's verbally, mentally, emotionally, punching holes in walls, right? There's a lot of things that can be labeled as abuse. When they come to my class, I have a saying, and I tell them, everything is your fault. Like everything. Like you can find pieces of like, okay, I shouldn't have done this because of this. And that helps them see like, okay, I got to be accountable for my actions 100% of the time. I cannot blame anyone for my life or my actions. And so I think like that's where it's at. Like we as a people or as a nation got to stop blaming everyone for what it is that we're doing and look at it for what it is. I'm doing it because of my decisions and my choices, not because of somebody else's.
Accountability.
Yeah, man, I live by that now. You know, now I'm doing it. I live by it. Like if I look at my life and I don't like the way it's going, I don't blame anyone for the way it's going. I used to. That was a bad mindset to have. I used to blame the white man or the cops or this woman that was in my life. But then I realized, like, at the end of the day, there's one common denominator out of all those issues, and it's this guy right here.
The choices that you make, yeah.
Yeah. If I could, I'd like to piggyback on that. I think some of the other things that we can do is we need to defend our democracy, right? You know, I mean, showing up for our civilians who, you know, who's trying to do things the right way. We need to understand history. Our history and other people's history, right? We need to learn that, right? A lot of people forget that. You know, you need to know your rights. Demand immediate action. These are simple things that, believe it or not, if we can demand. I mean, because the reality is a lot of the stuff that's going on that we're seeing more on the forefront, that I'm seeing more than ever, is because we failed to act. We didn't demand immediate action. You know what? And I say that is because we did not vote.
Yeah.
I think they said 40% of African Americans did not vote this past go around. So we in essence wanted what we got, because if we didn't want that, we would have participated in the rights that were bestowed upon us because of our ancestors. All right, they worked tremendously hard to get us that opportunity to have rights. And we chose not to demand an immediate action. We didn't get involved. We didn't vote. We didn't hold the people accountable. You know, the reality is, if you're seeing a lot more hate crimes, it's because of it's a direct reflection of what's being presented as our representative, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we have to defend our democracy. I think we have to do that and demand immediate actions through our legislative bodies in our local towns, states, and government.
And one of the things that I've noticed and I talked to about last week is that people are so quick to judge nowadays. You know, they do not do their research, you know, and whenever you present whatever you present, you know, online, they quick to jump and, you know, and just express their opinion. Everybody's, you know, can express their opinion, freedom of, you know, speech and all that. But we gotta do more research. Like myself, being black, being African, you know what I mean? I came here from a different continent, you know, and I've been here for 18 years. I could easily just be quiet and just live my life, you know. Sometimes I feel like I live a privileged life, yes, you know, but goes back to what you just talked about, AT, the choices that I've made in my life, you know what I mean? The choices that I've made, where to go, what to do, have put me in a place that I'm at right now, you know. I'm married to a white woman. I got mixed kids. My in-laws are white. My bio parents are black, of course. My adopted parents are white, you know, and but racism does exist. Not just in law enforcement, racism exists everywhere. And I am a victim. I've been a victim of racism in the past, you know, while working on one of the police departments that I used to work at. And it was addressed, you know, because I was vocal about it. You know, it was addressed, which was great job on that. But, you know, till this day, you can see, you know, like sometimes, like, you know, I was telling my wife, you know, like you said, AT, it's not direct, but, you know, you go and you be like, you know, they just look at you, okay, he's a black guy, okay. And you're at an event where most of the people may be white. And the first thing before they're like, hey, man, what's your name? And you tell your name. What do you do is the next question. You know what I mean? And you see the level of comfortability whenever you tell them, oh, yeah, I'm a director of police training. You know, I'm a training coordinator I'm a police officer. They're like, oh, okay, so you cool.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you cool. They can talk to you in a different way. And I've noticed, I've experienced that. You know what I mean? I've experienced that because, you know, people look, tall guy, do you play in sports and stuff like that? I used to play basketball. You still not? I'm a police officer. Oh, okay. You know, things change. But we see, I mean, you know, they judge us based on that. And, you know, if I wonder if I had said, I work at Walmart, if the conversation will continue or will stop right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is, man. I just want to say thank you, guys, man. I really appreciate you guys. And we've been here for 55 minutes. You don't even feel like that. It feels like we've been here for 20 minutes. That's why we got to do this again, man. I would like to have you guys back on the show so we can talk about, you know, what's going on. Because I believe this is what we're missing. We're missing not being able to talk to each other and just pick each other's brain and just say whatever you feel, man. And that's why I'm having this show. It's not just for mainly just, you know, law enforcement. No, it's for people who want to see a better community, you know what I mean? People who are involved with the community, who are doing everything for the community. And that's why I ask you, both of you guys, to be here, because I've seen you guys fighting for your communities, man, you know, doing for your communities and providing service for your community. And that's what we all about. And I think that's how we make, you know, a difference and make a change in our communities, man. So is anything else you got for me, AT?
I got one thing. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Like,
yes, sir. Take your time. Take your time.
In there, like, you know what I mean? So something that I've been working on now is we have to stop being reactive and start responding to things. Like that reaction stuff is like that's starting over with. Let's stop being reactive and let's start responding to things, because that's where real change starts. Is whenever I stop and think about what it is I'm going to do, come up with a plan of action and do it, versus just running out there and just doing it and hoping like it works.
Yeah.
So that's something I just wanted to say. Like, as a people, as a nation, let's stop being reactive and let's start responding to it. The issues that are going on right now.
Sarge? No, I'm good, man. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to speak today on this platform. It's the first Zoom platform I've ever spoke on. So, but I really enjoyed the topic, and I hope that there's more of these conversations in the future. Man, Sarge, why you gotta hit me without, you know, New York accent, man? I was expecting that, you know, Bumba Collector. No, sir. No, sir.
I got you, man. Man, I really appreciate you guys being here, man. And, you know, I'm going to be contacting you guys so we can, you know, do it again. And that's what we need to see a change in our communities, man. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate y'all. And y'all stay safe out there.
All right, sir. You as well. Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
have a good one.
All right.
There you go. We talk about racism. Racism sucks. Yes, being falsely accused of racism sucks too, man. What's going on right now in our community, my belief, is the comparison. You know, every time you express your opinion, somebody always comes and be like, but do your research. And sometimes, you know, the person that may have be talking, maybe saying something that you don't agree with, man, just listen to. Just take the time to listen to, and you'll see how things go, man. Thank you for being here and join me in this podcast tonight. Tomorrow's my birthday. Yay! June 24th. Tomorrow is June 25th. It's my birthday. Hey, Cody, show me 1042. You know what time it is. If you don't know, you better have somebody. Holla. And man.